Here are the hints on doing the first page of the arithmetic sequences and series problem set. Remember that the equations that you're going to use to solve these problems are these two equations. On this page, principally, you're going to use the nth term is equal to the first term plus the n minus 1 times d. D is the common difference, which is the number between each of the numbers. So if you have like the series 3, 5, 7, 9, then in between these there's a 2, in between these there's a 2, in between these there's a 2. So D is equal to 2, right? The nth term. So this would be the first term, this would be the second term, this would be the third term, this would be the fourth term. So n would be 1, 2, 3, 4. And so if I wanted to find out what the fourth term was, I would say u sub 4 is equal to the first term, which is 3, plus n minus 1, which would be 4 minus 1, times d, which is 2. And that would give me 3 plus 3 times 2, which is 9. Okay? So let's go through these problems now. At the beginning of each problem, you're going to write down the equation, the formula. The first four terms of an arithmetic sequence are 3, 7, 11, 15, and so on. Write down the eighth term in the sequence. Okay. Let's see, that's the first four terms. The eighth term would be u8 is equal to u1 plus n minus 1 times d. And d here is obviously 4, right? There's a 4 between each of these. There's 4 between those two. There's 4 between those two. So d equals 4. So d equals 4. Now we want the eighth term, so n minus 1 would be 7. And then u1 would be the first term, which would be 3. Okay? So you just work that out to find that answer. What is the 150th term? Well, the 150th term would be the first term plus 150 minus 1 times d, which is 4. Okay? And remember that u1 is equal to 3. So that is how you figure out that one. Okay? The first four terms of an arithmetic sequence are 3, 7, 11, 15. Write down the nth term of this sequence. Okay, it's not asking you for a specific term, it's asking for the nth term. So all you need to do is write the equation. And you're just not going to fill in the n. The n is going to stay n. So u1 is 3, right? N minus 1 is n minus 1 because you don't know what n is. And d would be the distance between each of these numbers, which is 4. Okay? So the nth term would be 3 plus n minus 1 times 4. If you want to simplify that, you can. That was A. B, calculate the 50th term of the sequence. Well, that would be u50 equals u1 plus 50 minus 1, which is 49, times 4. Okay, and you know u1, right? u1 is 3. Okay, so you can figure that out. Okay, 9. Here is a finite sequence, 8, 10.5, 13, 15.5, all the way to 188. This is a little bit more difficult because, look, the d is no longer a whole number. The d between 8 and 10.5 would be, the common difference would be 2.5, right? So d is equal to 2.5. So that was the answer to A. Find the 12th term. So you go u12 is equal to u1 plus n minus 1 times d. Well, n minus 1 is 12 minus 1, which would be 11. And u1 is 8, right? So I could say 8 plus 12 minus 1, 11, times d, which is 2.5. Okay, so you can work that out. C. Find the number of terms that the sequence has. Okay, we know that it starts at 8 and it goes to 188. We don't know how many numbers we have. It never says what term the 188 is, and that's kind of what they're asking. If we make the equation again, u1 plus n minus 1 times d, and we substitute in the right numbers, like for example 188 for un, u1 is 8 of course, and then we don't know the n, and that's exactly what they're asking. Find the number of terms. They want to know what n is, okay, and we're going to use the last term, and we're going to find out if, that's the nth term, what is n, okay, and d, remember, is 2.5, okay. So now what you do is you have an equation, 188 equals 8 plus n minus 1 times 2.5. You just use algebra to solve this. Let's see, 2.5 n minus 2.5. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to subtract 8 from both sides. Then you're going to add 2.5 to both sides. Okay, and then you end up with, this would be 0, this would be 0. On this side you have 188 minus 8, which is 180, plus 2.5, so 182.5 equals 2.5n. And then the final step is to just divide both sides by 2.5, and that will give you an answer for n, right? Okay, so that's how you do that one. Last one on this page. The third term of an arithmetic sequence is 8, and the ninth term is 26. Write down the two equations in u1 and d to show this information. Find the values of u1 and d. Now this is a real algebra problem. The third term of the sequence is 8, so I would say u sub 3 is 8, and the ninth term is 26, so I would write u9 equals 26. Write down the two equations in u1 and d to show this information. Remember that the equation is u1 plus n minus 1 times d is equal to 8, right? And 26 is equal to u1 plus n minus 1 times d. And remember, we don't know what d is yet, but we do know n in each case, right? Because n here is 3. So instead of n minus 1, we could put 2. And this one, n is 9. So instead of n minus 1, we could put 8. Oops. Let me erase that. Okay. So now we have two equations and two unknowns. We have 8 equals u1 plus 2d. And on the other side, we have 26 equals u1 plus 8d. Okay? And so you can use algebra to solve this. Basically, what you could do is, you could solve for u1 here. So you could say, we're going to use this equation, we're going to solve for u1. So we write u1 equals 26 minus 8d. And then we take this value, 26 minus 8d, and we're going to substitute it in for that one. It's the substitution method of algebra, okay? So you put 8 equals 26 minus 8d plus 2d, okay? And then 8 equals, and then 26, and minus 8d plus 2d, that would give you minus 6d, right? And then you could subtract 26 from both sides. That will give you 0 on this side, it will give you minus 18 on this side, minus 18 equals minus 6d. So d is equal to negative 18, or negative 6, divide both sides by negative 6, and you end up with d equals 3. Okay, so d equals 3. And then to find the u1, you could just put 3 back into either this equation or into this equation, right? If you put 3 in there, you would have 8 equals u1 plus 6, so that means u1 is 2, right? Okay, so those are hints on doing these, the first page here.